sassy.
I don't know when she has it.
Well, more than usual, more than usual.
I'm preparing the live
All this
stream.
plexiglass,
All right.
Okay, behave.
$2,100. Just to protect me from Melinda.
But not just here.
You see how much all this costs?
But throughout the building
Okay,
too.
everybody
No,
is.
just this.
You. It's also.
Go in line or.
Just the board of commissioners rooms. These things here and the two freestanding ones.
Expensive stuff.
I was just commenting on how expensive this stuff is.
Yes.
How expensive is it? $10?
Yeah.
Well, we have it in claims and there's some good expenses in there. It's
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Anselmi,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton,
Present?
Chairman Bonnick,
Here.
Commissioner Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Sudeslow,
Here.
Commissioner Rettenbach,
Here.
Commissioner Lautner,
Present?
all present.
Thank you. So then I would bring us to communications, proclamations, and presentations.
Let me start quickly.
Sure.
I have a birthday pie for Commissioner Lautner, because her birthday was in April, and we met remotely. And no, it has not been sitting since April, it's fresh. So,
I'm still
happy
eating
delayed
it.
birthday.
Thank you.
Have to keep that tradition going.
I forgot already, so thank
And then there was a brief discussion at the end of last week's meeting about the Leland Dam and how it's classified. And so I've asked Steve Christensen to come, and he is there remotely trying to get it. There we go. We can see Steve now. Steve, we can see your shirt. There you go. And by the way,
There we go.
Steve still did not get a haircut if you look at him. He still has his long hair here.
I'm
But
holding out.
Steve, you want to give us an update on how the dam is classified?
Sure. The classification of the Leland Dam is high risk, and that's a technical classification. It has to do with the amount of water in front of the dam, the head, and it has to do with the amount of water held back, and it has to do with residents and buildings downstream. It's purely a technical classification. It doesn't have anything to do with how our dam is doing at present. It's just a technical classification. It's always been classified as high risk.
Any questions, Commissioner Water?
Yes, Steve, I have a question then. That being said, are there dams listed less than high risk in Michigan? Because it sounds to me like that's what dams do.
Yeah, there are different classifications, and it has to do with the physical nature of the dam, how much water is held back, how much head there is, and what there is downstream. So this dam, the Leland Dam, is classified as high risk because of those factors.
Oh, well, okay, but I guess my point is that that's a relatively brand new dam, and so that doesn't make any difference. I mean, if they had told us this in the mid-90s, I wouldn't have been a bit surprised. But
Yeah,
it's a brand new back that water.
It's a little confusing. The classification doesn't have a relationship to how well we are keeping our dam up. There can be a dam that's classified as high risk and people haven't kept it up. And it may be something that's a high concern for the people around it. Then our dam on the other side of the coin has been kept up very well. As I came on to my position as drain commissioner, the very first task I needed to do was to fix my dam, as the DNR called it. So I started the process. I found an engineer. We hired an engineer and started to head toward a repair. Dave Gill, in his research, discovered that we did not own the dam. So there was a hold on the process until Dave was able to negotiate with the hotel and the restaurant to get ownership of the dam and the property underneath it. That took at least a year, maybe a year and a half to get that accomplished. Once that was done, we went forward with the engineering. Then the county stepped up for half the bill, the riparians for half. We went through with the project. It's a completely redone dam. It's completely rebuilt. It's a crest gate. We replaced 2 bays with 1 bay and a crest gate, hydraulic controls in the control room. We just had our triannual inspection last year. Flying colors, everything is cool. We need to do no work on the dam. There's no, we did the underwater below and the underwater above. We added that to our triannual just to make sure things were good. We passed in flying colors. There's no absolute need to do work at this time. We are doing some safety work, as you well know, and as we laid out from the dam authority to this board. So I'm proud of where we are with the dam. I think we're in really good shape with the Leland Dam.
Commissioner Wesson.
Steve, thanks for being here. Is it an annual inspection, every other year? How often are by law are we required?
Triannual, every 3 years.
And we did that last year,
Correct.
and you got the report back on that.
I have the report back in verbal format from Spicer. I have the written underwater report back. Spicer, I've bumped them 2 or 3 times. I'd like to have that report back. The paper copy, I do have it verbally, but I want the paper copy. They're swamped with all kinds of work on dams and shoreline. Spicer's a big company in the state, and they're hammered with getting all this work done. They pushed me to the background, and they said, you know, if that's okay, I said, okay, I mean, we can wait for it so long as I know everything is good, which it is. So no report, no bill. So the bill is coming and the report's coming, and we're just between Lake Michigan eating and Lake Huron eating the state away and the COVID and all of the above. We are on the back burner for the report, but I do have it verbally.
Then a follow-up question. I assume all dams in the state of Michigan are required to be inspected every 3 years?
All the high risk, yes.
So was there, trying to learn from Midland and what happened there, did they have advance warning? Did they fail in their last triennial inspection?
From what I understand, the upper dam has been in violation for some time. And because of that, there was a transfer from the Fed. It was a dam that could produce power, but I don't think it was at the time, and had been out of compliance for many years. And finally, the feds threw up their hands and gave it up, and took their control away from it, and it passed over to the state. The state got their hands on it and started looking closely at what needed to be done, and they were in that process. Actually, they had hired GEI to take a look at it. GEI recommended that they lower the water so they could take a closer look at all of the structure, and the residents around the lake declined. and said that we'll do that in the fall after the summer season.
But there was also something about the state suing to not have it lowered because of a mussel in that lake.
Yeah, that
That's
could
your-
be, yeah, that could very well be. I don't have all the details. I did talk to John Popa, and he had some interesting video. That lake, they had such an enormous event that the lake came up really, really high, which in and of itself might not have been such a bad problem, but all of the things that started floating and heading down toward the dam was the problem. The dam outlet got jammed up with boats and hoists and docks and all kinds of things. So no water or very little water could actually pass at the dam overflow. So it was an amazing tragedy. It was a bad event.
Steve, did they, in the report, they said the state only had the last inspection in 2009. I'm wondering how, if we have them every 3 years, why would they only have 2009 as the last inspection?
That's a good question, and there are two dams involved, so I don't know if that was the upper one or the lower one, but yeah, it's a good question.
I'm talking about Lake Leland. I'm talking about the Leland Dam. I'm talking about the Leland Dam. They said the last inspection on the Leland Dam was in 2009, according to the state.
That's an yes. Thomas Perhotas did that. He was our engineer, and he did the inspection in 2009, but the report didn't come through for a year and a half. And he had gone on his own, and he had a fire, and he had a divorce, and there's all kinds of things happened to him. He just dropped off the map. He resurfaced a year and a half later, and we got the report out of him. I gave it to Jim Pulowski, who's very familiar with our dam. Typical of a state agency, Jim Pulowski had the northern half of the Lower Peninsula and I believe the Upper Peninsula. He had his hands full with all kinds of dams that were in various stages of disrepair. He knew our dam was absolutely perfect. He said to me that he would send that when he just took that year and said, we're going to go 3 years from this date, which is what he did. So, that's what he did. That he's the control officer. So he told me what he was going to do. I said, okay, I'm confident in our dam, and he's been at the dam. And anyway, that's the story there.
So we haven't had it inspected since 2009, except for last year?
I said we just did it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Correct. That's true. I'd have to look at my documents, but that makes sense. The 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 and 3 is 15. Yeah, I'd have to look. That sounds like sounds like a bigger gap than what I have in my records, but I'm not in my office, and I'll have to look that up for you, Will.
Okay. Commissioner Weston.
Yeah, it may be the state, but it sounds kind of loosey-goosey. If it's required every 3 years, there ought to be one in 2016, 2013, 2010, or some such thing. And how do we know that the person that inspects our dam submits the report and they're received and filed and acted upon? And do we have a responsibility to confirm that that's in place? And is there anything we're not doing to comply with that triennial inspection regulation?
That's a good question. In essence, I waited for the request of the inspection is what I did, and I got them as obviously on a not real regular basis. I was in contact with Jim Pulowski all the way through it. And, when I got the request, I went ahead and hired the inspections done. So I can't do their job for them. But when I got the request, I did have the inspection done.
Commissioner Rush.
My question is, when we don't have the dam inspected the third year as required, what is the potential liability for the county? And if we request, instead of waiting for them to send us a notice for inspection, are we requesting dam inspections every 3 years? And if not, again, I go back to the question is, how does that impact our liability as a county if something should go drastically wrong?
Yeah, and I don't have an answer on that.
Do you request a dam inspection from the state? I believe it's a state, or whoever you contract with?
The state of Michigan sends out the notice that inspection is due. And
Okay,
when I get one for Glen Lake Dam, I relay that to them, and then they deal with that independently. It comes through me. And when I get one for Leland Dam, I go ahead and hire an engineer and have the inspection done. I've gone to Spicer because they actually get it done. I've hired engineers that were recommended to me and had been doing work for us and had been doing engineering work for us and designed the dam for us. And it turns out that if the report doesn't actually come, the inspection's done, report's not in, and I called Jim Pulowski and I let him know what the situation is, and I'm asking for the report. And so I've stopped using all of those people and I've gone to Spicer, and they actually get the inspection done.
I'm wondering if would not be prudent on the part of the county to ensure that we're getting the inspections as required every 3 years, whether we're officially notified that they want an inspection. I mean, we would be able to present an inspection to the county or to the state if they're requiring an inspection. Instead of us waiting on them, why don't we initiate this on our own, just to cover ourselves as far as liability is what I'm asking.
Well, that's a good question, and I think that may be a policy that we go to. Having it go the other way obviously left some gaps for us, which the liability question does come up. So that'll be on my to-do list to talk with but there's a new person now, and make contact and find out the procedure we need to do to keep ourselves covered.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Walker.
Steve, maybe you could when you get back in your office, double check that, because it seems to me like we've done some inspections in that time frame. Because during one of the inspections, they found the hole beneath the parking lot, the water leaking through, and we had a big repair with that. So that doesn't seem like that was 09. It seems like that was more like mid-teen years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that could. There was a little baby sinkhole. Is that probably what you're referring to?
Yes.
After the dam was rebuilt, it was maybe a year or two later, there was a sinkhole that developed, and we had Spicer come in and inspect it and engineer it. And they actually contracted, we hired them to contract out and get that sinkhole fixed. So again, that was That's the point where I switched completely over to Spicer. Excellent response. I'm really happy with that group.
All right, just get
I
us
do
that.
think that was 2008.
You think how long?
Yeah. Commissioner Wessel.
Well, I appreciate Steve coming, and I'd like to suggest that we try to get a hold of that final inspection report and come back and get it on our calendar and get it sequenced so that we comply with that inspection every 3 years, whether they notify us or not. And then I'd suggest we check with our risk management people and make sure that we're doing everything they want us to do.
Excellent idea. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about it.
No problem. I've obviously got a to-do list here, and we'll move forward with it.
Thank you. And that would bring us then, was there any other updates or that?
No.
Okay. So it will bring us to the approval of the board minutes, and we have a list here on the yellow sheet.
I would move to approve the Board of Commissioners executive session meeting minutes of April 14th, the BOC regular session meeting minutes of April 21st, the Finance Audit Committee meeting of April 28th, the Board of Commissioners executive session meeting minutes of May 12th, and the BOC regular session meeting minutes of May 19th, all of 2020.
Support.
All those in favor, say, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. Then that brings us then to the approval of the agenda. I don't think we have any late additions.
No, but if it's okay, out of fairness to Matt Anzorgi, who's already worked 12 hours today, we can move him to number 1, so you give an update, so Matt can spend some time with his family.
Is that number 9?
Yeah, you can just move that to number
Sure.
1. It's a brief update, so. Out of fairness to Matt, so he could have some time with his family.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So that gives us our debt. That brings us then to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
You're going to announce the.
They can call in. I should give you the number here. It's 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109. If you'd like to have public comment, please call in now.
Is this public comment? Hello? Hi.
That's when you go.
Okay, let me put you on the speakerphone. You may want to turn your TV off because there's a delay from what you're watching. So if you could turn that down, I'll put you on the speakerphone, okay? Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Murray, and I'm a resident of Empire, and I just wanted to talk to you about a letter that I recently sent to Mr. Janik and the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners, as well as the sheriff. And this is in regards to my concern that we be assured of non-violent violence policies and procedures in our sheriff's department. As we know, there's been some real recent horrific events of police brutality in our nation and state, and quite frankly, I attended the protest in Traverse City, and just some stories locally of, really not appropriate treatment of our neighbors who are minorities, lower income, etc. And so I'm just really encouraging, in my letter, I'm really encouraging that the Sheriff's Department make sure that they have on file some written anti-profiling policies and procedures, that they would consider body cameras and dash cameras to be installed and of mandatory use, that they require implicit bias training immediately upon hire, but also annually for the staff. And that training can be provided by our Black, Brown, Indigenous people of color from our community who can really give important information to the Sheriff's Department. And encouraging them to make sure that their policies and procedures immediately end the use of choke and stranglehold if that practice and policy is currently acceptable. I'm encouraging them to create a duty to intervene policies and practices if that practice is not in place, and that would require officers to intervene and stop force being used by other officers if they happen to observe that behavior. I'm requesting that we have comprehensive reporting so that would require officers to report each time they use force or threaten to use force against civilians. And I'm asking that the review of the current policies and procedures and the development of the new, stronger, nonviolent policies and procedures be done with the existing funds that are in place in that department. And so I'm really requesting your consideration, your thought to my letter. I'd like to see a plan in place in our community to promote a nonviolence response in all aspects of the Sheriff's Department's policies and procedures. And I also have my daughter, Claire Murray, here, and she would like to give a public comment as well. Hello, everyone. So statistics have shown that by enforcing these policies that were just listed, there's a significant decrease in complaints from civilians and less injuries due to these excessive force uses. And if any of these policies are not currently in place, then we want to know what's being done to make sure they're going to be enforced in the near future. And if there are ways that we can help the police department with these changes in any way, we are more than happy to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You want to announce it?
Okay, yes. Again, if you want to have public comment, please call 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109. Hearing no phone, then we will move on then to our action items. And first up would be number 9, the Emergency Management Government Center Tower bid update. Matt, you're up.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you moving this up in the meeting. I do appreciate that. The board wanted to have an update on the tower RFP process. As everyone knows, the deadline was yesterday at 4 p.m. and unfortunately, I wish I had better news, but we did not receive even one submission. Kind of disappointing because we did have letters of intent that were filed with us. And we had one proposal that came in well beyond the deadline and one that asked for an extension. So we have extended the RFP online and moved the deadline to be July 10th, which would bring us in line to be able to provide you some updates before the July meetings take place. So we're hopefully not going to be too far behind in the process. We'll be able to update you for the July meeting on any proposals that we do receive, and we can move forward at that time.
Well, my only question was, I guess maybe this shouldn't have come to as a surprise to us, considering everything is probably pushed back. So can we guess that the providers just didn't have time to put it all together?
Yeah, we did try to take that into consideration, more so along the lines of the production time, especially with, the COVID uncertainty. But with this a little delay that we have in the submissions, we do believe that we can still be within our time frame. Plus, it gives the firms that may be interested a little more time to present their best case.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Bob? Okay, Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, then that would bring us to item number 1, the 13th Circuit Court, Commissioner Rushton.
I would move to approve the Leelanau County Resolution 2020-011 for the 13th Circuit Court Community Corrections Grant Application to MDOC for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
Okay, and this will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansardi,
Yes.
Chairman Bonnet,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Rettenbach,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to number 2, the Family Court approval of the annual child care fund plan and budget. Commissioner Wessel.
I move to approve the child care fund annual plan and budget in the amount of $696,290 for Leelanau County fiscal year October 1, 2020 through September 30, 2021.
I'll
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please do the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. That brings us to workers' compensation renewal agreement with Peterson, McGregor and Associates. Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, I move to approve renewing a contract for 1 year with Peterson, McGregor and Associates for workmen's compensation coverage in the amount of $50,890 of funds to come from the fund ending in 871.954.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please do the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And that brings us to the Sheriff's Office acceptance of the 2020 State Marine Safety Grant. Commissioner Ansardi.
I move that the county accept the state funding for marine safety as outlined in the 2020 Marine Safety Grant Agreement in the amount of $28,600. Funds to be deposited in the account ending in 544.000, Marine Division.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please give the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us then to the Planning Community Development and set MSHBA grant hearing date of July 14, 2020. Commissioner Ansari.
I move to set the public hearing date and time for closeout of the CDBG 2015 housing grant on July 14, 2020 at 9 a.m. prior to the executive committee meeting.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, did you want to speak?
No, I just pumped up.
All those opposed, please do the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. It brings us then to the monumentation, remonumentation, Commissioner Ansari.
I move to approve the survey services agreement with Onan Land Surveying in the amount of $5,000 to survey 5 corners, the Holmberg Land Survey for $2,000 to GPS work on 5 corners, the Grand Traverse Surveying for $7,000, the Leelanau Land Surveying for $7,000 to survey and GPS 5 corners, plus $1,400 for the plan update.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, give the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Ansari.
I move to approve the monumentation, remonumentation peer group agreements with Onan Land Surveying in the amount of $600, Holmberg Land Survey in the amount of $600, Grand Traverse Surveying in the amount of $600.
Support. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And that brings us to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, potential approval of EPA grant.
Number
We
6,
still have one more.
action item 6.
I'm sorry. Am I missing something?
6H.
Oh, all right. Go ahead. Commissioner Ansari.
I move to approve the remonumentation peer group agreement with Leelanau Land Surveying in the amount of $5,355 with cost to come from the remonumentation program.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please do the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Sorry I missed that. Then it brings us to the Brownfield.
I move to approve the Leelanau Development Authority to prepare an EPA grant application for brownfield assistance with the LCBRA, presenting the application to the county board at a future date for approval to submit.
Second.
Or Commissioner Sugas-Little did support it as well. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, give the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. Then that brings us to the treasurer equalization title search service bids.
And Mr. Gallagher's on the,
Yeah.
and you have a copy of this. This is
Okay.
passed out. And you-
We have an executive document here.
John, would you like to give an overview?
Running.
Good.
Rachel and I have gone out for bids. We've been working behind the scenes as long as I've been in office to find orphan parcels, put them back on the roll. We've come to a point now where we need further assistance to properly identify some properties that are in Leelanau County and currently not being assessed. In the EDS, you'll note the statute that requires all properties to be assessed. In the past, what we've done is had the assessors place the properties on the roll as unknown. However, it is more cost efficient to identify the
John, we cannot, it's garbled on our end.
You maybe have to speak closer to the microphone or something, because it's really hard to understand.
Or you can simply, if it doesn't work, you can simply call in here too.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thanks a little better. Let's try.
Nonetheless, we're just trying to get the properties on the tax roll. We solicited two different bids, received two different bids. There's quite a difference in the cost between the two. Basically, Ask Services is $65 per search, whereas there's a flat fee for the second, Stanley Consultants. My recommendation to the board is to approve an agreement with Ask Services in the amount of $2,600. The funds will come out of the delinquent tax revolving fund, contractual services 516-801. Tony, there is no budget because we normally don't go there, but I have fund balance.
Commissioner Ansari.
John, what have we done in the past for this type of situation? You know, I don't remember this ever coming up before.
As I was trying to explain, but got bad connection. I'd work with the assessors and we would put them on the roll as unknown. But it would cost the county to publish, post, send mailings, and to go through the foreclosure process in order for the county treasurer to clean it up. This, in my opinion, is a quicker and more efficient way to do so.
So you anticipate that we'll be doing this in the future every year? Or is this just to clean up a past mess and we will only have onesie twosies in the future?
Correct. We've identified for about 40 parcels that we internally can't identify proper ownership. And so it's only prudent to just do the title searches. That way we can properly serve the last known owner, and it may be, railroad right away, it may be a road, it may be somebody's backyard, splits didn't get recorded, and put them on the roll correctly.
Mr. Rush.
I'm just wondering where these 40 parcels came from. Have they been, obviously they haven't been taxed historically, and they've just been kind of under the radar? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Most of these parcels have been marked inactive.
Okay.
They don't show up on a tax roll. The assessor, the treasurer at the local jurisdiction takes them off the roll by putting them as inactive because we don't know who the owners are. In my opinion, working with the townships, we've done our due diligence to try to find the last contact, but in some cases that is nearly impossible. So hopefully with the expertise of title search companies, we'll at least have a standing to move forward.
Commissioner Watt.
John, are there any cemeteries in these parcels?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Commissioner Rush.
I would move to approve the proposal from Ask Services in the amount of $2,600 with funds to come from account beginning in 516 and ending in 801000.
Support.
Commissioner Ansel.
John, did you go back and ask the other bidder, Stanley Consultants, why their bid was so much higher? It's very, very unusual to see such a discrepancy between bids.
From reviewing their proposal, they don't have the support here locally. So they were going to send a staffer up here, and additionally, they're not familiar with the types of title searches that treasurers use. I think that they expected maybe it would be a little bit more involved than what we traditionally do. Whereas Ask Services, as I noted, we're working with Washington, Eaton, and Wayne County. So they're more familiar with our process for tax foreclosure, and they understand the due diligence required. So I just think we're comparing apples and oranges.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So then that would bring us to the resolution for the county parks and recreation. This will also be a roll call. Commissioner Weston.
I move to approve Leelanau County Resolution 2020-012, Michigan Department of Natural Resources Recreation Passport Grant for Veronica Valley Park Universal Improvements as presented.
Support.
I just have a comment about it in that if, in the next one, we're looking at not allowing, or, you know, really trying to restrict hiring because of the COVID-19. But to me, this is almost just the opposite. We're predicting we're gonna spend $50,000 on a park, you know, instead. So I just think it sends the wrong message if we do one or the other. And I don't know whether the resolution will pass the next one, but I also think that this would negates that, and we would look poor in deciding to go for this resolution as opposed to doing the next one. I just think it's a bad message. Commissioner Lyon.
Yes, I have been struggling with that very issue on this, considering all that's going on and considering how tight our budget is running. And I've sweated about this vote and how to vote on this, but this is for the application. We've tried several times. If we are successful, we have a choice whether to accept at that time or decline. By declining, there wouldn't be a problem. It would just make the next highest scoring park a very happy park, because then they would have the ability to accept those funds. So I think it's relatively no harm, no foul, except it may weigh on us in the future. But should we be successful, the first thing that I would ask is that perhaps we could run some sort of a fundraising event for at least a good portion of the funds, that the matching funds that we would have to come up with. And again, I'll just remind you that parks have been not spending their budgets for a number of years in anticipation of being successful, and are willing to do that in the future too. It doesn't help if there's no money to put in parks budgets, I get that. So we would have to decide at that point whether we could successfully run a fundraising event or just let it go.
Commissioner West.
Yes, I agree, and item number 11 is because we're unsure of what the future holds. So we want to be careful about that. This is not, this resolution is not committing us to anything except going forward with our application. When we hear back, we'll know more about our financial position, and then we can make a decision.
Commissioner West.
I think it's timing on this, one. And two, I recall when the sheriff came before this board and asked for a match to his grant. And what did we tell the sheriff? We told him to go find donations. But yet, the Parks comes before us and says, hey, we want $50,000 out of the general fund. I won't support this today. I think that sometimes we talk out both sides of our mouth here.
Commissioner Answer.
You need to remember that when we apply for these grants, you know, this wasn't a free process. We paid a consultant to help us do this. And when you apply for a grant and then turn it down, you are impacting your chance to apply for future grants. So I don't think it's a good idea to apply for a grant for $50,000 when we already know we are going to have a budget issue. The extent may be up for debate, but I don't think there's a debate that there is going to be an issue. So I don't support it just because I don't think it's a wise fiduciary decision at this point in time to ask for money when we have a good possibility we're gonna have to turn it down, even if we get it. And then that gives us a black mark for any future project. So I will not be supporting this either.
Any other comments? Commissioner Lautner.
Yeah, just one final comment. What I tend to fall back on is that if we're successful, and if we can swing this matching grant for it, the improvements that would be made to that kid's fishing pond that is so popular, and it is so unsafe at this time. So we get this grant, we help with the safety of that fishing pond. It would be a big plus for us, big time. And as I said, we've basically been setting money aside for a couple years, and Parks is willing to do that again. So, because of the importance of the work that should be done, it's a liability issue there for us.
Commissioner Russell.
If I recall, when we looked at that grant, a lot of those dollars were for walkways. I know we all like to think that that pond out there is the almighty for the whole county, but let's face it, we've got creeks that run along streets from here to the tip of the peninsula where people can fish. I know that because I've done it with my grandkids. The pond is nice, it's convenient, but for me, as I said before, when the grant was presented and the plan for the parks were presented, most of those dollars went for walkways. And as mentioned, we're asking our department heads, are you talking? No?
I spoke twice, I thought.
We asked our department heads to not hire any new people. We're looking at potential budget cuts across the board this coming year. And as Commissioner Answorthy pointed out, it may hinder our chances in the future. It's timing. So I'll let it rest there.
Any other comments? Commissioner Answer.
You know, I have always struggled with the amount of money we put into that pond when we are blessed with a great number of inland lakes with public access, and we're on a peninsula that has multiple public accesses to big water. I am just amazed that we put that much money into that one pond. I've always been amazed. You know, you look at other counties and how much they spend on their properties. We spend a lot more on that particular pond than anybody else I know
Commissioner Russell.
Well, I think before Commissioner Answorthy makes that guess, if he really believes that, we ought to do some research. This body approved this grant. We're just completing that process. We're not committing ourselves to any amount of money right now, but we're approving a resolution that is a required part of the process that this body approved. And then to say that no other county spends this amount of money, you don't know that.
Well, in this area.
Parks are capital projects. Parks need taken care of. We have an obligation to take care of our park. The Parks and Recreation Commission has been meeting for 2 years on this grant. We hired a consultant. We had public hearings. This isn't a spur of the moment thing. We've spent years doing it, years planning it. And this resolution just says, this ties a ribbon on it. We can set it in, and then when we know our budget situation, we can make a decision.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please raise your hands.
It's a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a roll call. I'm sorry, it's a roll call.
Did Commissioner Wessel make that? I forgot.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Answergy,
No.
Commissioner Chairman Bonick,
No.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Rettenbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
No.
Commissioner Sudas Little,
Yes.
4 yes, 3 no, motion passes.
Resolution passes. Thank you. So that brings us then to administration, the proposed personnel vacancies policy.
Yeah, last week you heard from Mr. Peacock, and he was quite complimentary that we have done a great job for many years being financially conservative, and that has been very fruitful for us. And I want to thank all the work that the commissioners have done over the years, as well as Michelle and the staff and Jen. And our entire staff has been very conservative. Since I've been here, I don't remember getting many requests that I think are completely out of line. I think the board has always been very conservative spending money, but these are unique times. As you know, a meteor hit us in March that forced us to close down for several months with the virus. We don't know what the state's going to do. We don't know what the federal government's going to do. We had a staff meeting last week. I announced that we're going to forward a budget process, as we normally have, but knowing full well that until we know what the state does, that's at the federal level, it's difficult to predict how we're going to end up in this process. We will have a budget in October, but how we get there and what impact it's going to have in terms of potential funding cuts from the state and the federal government, I think all of you understand these are challenging times, and there will have to be cuts. I just can't see how we can get through the state and the federal level without making cuts. I think our property taxes are the vast majority of our resources. The bills will probably be okay there, but it's the other money and so forth. And so it's very difficult to go forward. And so we had a special meeting on May 5th. One of the issues that was talked about is potential freeze in a new hiring. I think there was support about that. We said, let's see what happens in June, how we go forward with that. We are in June. Fortunately, I think the worst is over. We are having meetings here once again. We're going forward. The building is open, and that has gone extremely well. We passed out the budget packages last Friday. But however, we don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of this year, and especially for next year. And so therefore, based on your comments in May, based on your comments last week, I've worked with our legal counsel, and I've drafted a resolution, which I won't go into great detail because I think all of you have seen it. But basically it says any vacancy that happens, assuming this passes, that department head or that elected official has to come to the board and ask for permission to fill that seat. Under our current policies, is if it's in the budget, that department head, that elected official has the right to go forward and fill that position within the budget guidelines and within the financial guidelines. This simply states that it acknowledges that these are unique times, these are challenging times. We need to look at all costs, including personnel. Basically what this says is that anyone who wishes to fill a vacancy has to come to the board and get permission to fill that vacancy. It does not mean you will not fill it, you still have an option. It spells out that you can waive this policy, and this is through the end of 2020, because our budget year ends on December 31st. As we go through our budget process, come to a 21 budget, if you wish to put policies in place at that time, you do that this time. So that's why this ends on December 31st, 2020, because this is for this budget year. If you wish to change our policies, procedures for vacancies in the future, you can address that during our budget process. But this, I think, is a proactive move on our part to make sure there's good checks and balances in place. I have every confidence our staff has done a great job and will continue to do a great job, and will not use this as a way to look at things from a negative perspective, but it does give them a chance to really look at a position. So if there is a vacancy, I think it's legitimate that they have to make a case why they need to fill it at this point. Now, you could have a decision and say, no, we're going to wait. You can say, we'll wait until the 2021 year to fill it, or you can eliminate for future budget years. So you still have the flexibility department heads and elected officials still have the flexibility to come to the board and ask for permission, but they cannot fill a position without getting formal approval from the Board of Commissioners. That's in a nutshell my proposal.
Clarification, even if it's in their budget?
If it's in the budget, if you pass this today.
There's no special there for, about that?
And that's for elected, that's for department head, it's for any position.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
I move to approve Leelanau County Resolution number 2020-013, resolution authorizing a moratorium on county hiring, creation of new positions, and filling of vacant positions.
Second.
Any comments? Commissioner Wesson.
I certainly support the resolution. I'm encouraged by the administrator suggesting that we might want to take a look at this at budget time, because I think this might be an okay policy to follow for years to come. It allows us to evaluate our priorities, evaluate our needs, and I think it may be a good practice. So I support this, but I for one will bring it back at budget rules time.
Commissioner Anderson.
One of the things I'm looking at here is when we move into our budget process and, we actually get down to putting numbers in there that, we're gonna have to find some money someplace.
Maybe.
If we let our department heads know that, they come forward asking for a position to be filled, the first question I'm gonna ask is, what happens when we have to cut money? How are you gonna cut money out of your budget if you're gonna fill this position? So, this ties directly together in my mind with the budget process, because we might be looking at saying, okay, maybe we don't fill this position, but they only get a half a head, and we use another half a head someplace else where we can make some, best that we can for across all the departments. So, we need to send that message to the department heads that, we're not saying no, but when you come, we're gonna ask some tough questions. You go, okay, what happens in your department when we do gotta cut money? So this, I support this motion just because it ties in directly with the budget discussion that we're gonna have to have.
Commissioner Soderslund.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if our administrator knows whether or not so far anyone has applied for a grant that has a position in it, be it a temporary position, because I don't see grants unless we simply are going to treat them like anything else specified in this particular resolution. If someone has a position from a grant funding that may be just for that grant, is it coming to the board or not?
If there's a vacancy at any position, they have to come to the board.
Okay.
Whether it's grant funded or not. Because sometimes with grant funded, there's partial cost associated with that position to the county. So in this, any position, whether it's grant funded, whether it's a department head, whether it's elected official, still has to come to the board. Obviously, if it's grant funded, that will be part of the discussion you will have. But some of those grants have costs associated with them back to the county, and some are partial grants for employees too.
Yeah,
So
they
yes,
do.
any vacancy that comes up will have to get prior permission from the board.
They do, and that's why I was wondering if it should say somewhere in there, despite, the funding source, that, you're saying any position. Well, we'll just handle it as it comes.
Good question, Don. Any other comments or questions? Okay, this is a resolution, so it'll be a roll call as well.
Commissioner Ansari,
Yes.
Chairman Bonick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes?
Commissioner Rettenbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudaswittle,
Yes,
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. So then that brings us to acceptance of the 2019 audit report. Commissioner Ansari.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the 2019 audit as presented.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
And if I may have a comment,
Certainly.
I just wanted to thank the team that did the work on this budget. We're very proud of you for all your hard work and keeping our books the way they should be kept. So thank you. Thank you to the team.
Support that.
Yes. That brings us to review of financials. Commissioner Lott.
We had, on page 1 of late claims, we had a couple of expenses out of senior services, a camera and a video recording or camcorder. Is that for the virtual expo?
Yes, matter of fact, you'll get a report next week on that, but it went extremely well. It actually exceeded their expectations, and they may continue in the future to do a combination virtual and live thing, but also all those videos that were done will be posted so people can watch them throughout the year. So actually, I really want to give credit to April and her staff because they did a fantastic job. Their attendance virtually was higher than they anticipated, and a lot of positive feedback. And it looks like we may be the only one in Northern Michigan that has done a virtual gathering. All the other counties have canceled theirs.
Excellent.
So, but April will be here next
I'll look
month,
forward
because
to
I
it.
added,
Yeah.
for some reason, she didn't want to come this evening after work, I invited her to come at 7 o'clock today to give an update, but she wanted to stay home with her family, I guess. No, but she did a great job today, the staff did a great job. And that equipment now, they own that equipment, so they can use it for other resources also.
Okay, good. There was a couple of kayak repair bills, and I thought they were maybe duplicate, but they're two different amounts and two different people. So that was one I had circled. We did see some more, as we said, expenses for what we had to do to make the courthouse usable again. That's fine. So I guess that's it for me.
Any other questions about financials? Seeing none, then we move on to any committee reports or recommendations.
Just a quick reminder that we're having our special workshop next Monday at 9 a.m. in this room. And it'll be a combination of live and virtual, remote. Matt has been working on notifying all the ISP providers. And I'm trying to get our legal counsel there to answer any questions about the contracts. So I think all of you have received a copy of the agenda. And just reminding you, that's a workshop, it's not a meeting. That'll be at 9 o'clock Monday morning.
Great.
Thank you.
Were we supposed to have an update on HVAC systems or were you?
In July.
In July, okay.
Any special reports by staff, commissioners, or agencies?
We've been out there very much.
No. All right, again, we have public comment, and the number is 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109. If you'd like to make a public comment, please call in. Hearing no phone, we will move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Ansari.
I've had several calls, and I see that we've all got some not public comment, but citizen comments in regards to the police problems that we've been seeing across the nation and soliciting input from the Board of Commissioners. Have we made any response to those people?
Yes, matter of fact, the sheriff has responded to, like, for example, Ms. Murray, he responded to her. But we actually have placed this on the agenda in July, and the sheriff is more than willing to come and give an update here, what's going on in Leland County, and address the training and many of these issues. So they'll be on the July board agenda.
I was more coming from the standpoint that, the Board of Commissioners does not set policy for the sheriff's department. All our role is money.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, based on, because I've been copied, the comments that have come in either to the clerk and I have been passed on to all of you, but also to the sheriff, as we would for any comment that comes in for any department head or elected official. And I know he has responded to those emails and he's copied me on quite a few of them.
Okay, well, we had somebody call in
Yeah.
specifically that, evidently didn't get that message.
No, she did get a response.
Okay. So,
But she wanted to make sure that she was heard here, but no, she
We-
did.
we have no input.
And matter of fact, she responded back to the sheriff's email, so I know they have communicated.
Okay.
But we just thought it'd be best to put this on the agenda in July, and the sheriff is perfectly comfortable with that, and actually wants to come and talk about all the things that they have done, not just recently, but over the years.
That's what I was going to say. It's been over the years she's done.
Yeah, Tony, I have received some calls too, and I think the sheriff's going to share with us all sorts of information about some good things that we can all be proud of. And I think there's a lot of support out there for that. I will take exception to one of the things that Tony said, however, because 37% of our county budget is the sheriff's department. We have a responsibility and we do have input. We don't supervise his staff, but we do have a responsibility and we do have input. And it is our responsibility to listen, it is our responsibility to convene, and it is our responsibility to allow the sheriff an opportunity to share with the people that are talking to us what he'd like to share with us. But it's not quite accurate to say we have no input.
Commissioner Rush.
I just want to remind this board that not too long ago, the sheriff came before us at budget time and asked us to increase his training budget. And we as a board recognized how important training is for all of our officers. And I do believe that this sheriff is adamant about training and broad, wide training on all of these issues that have been raised. Just because these things are happening throughout the country does not mean these things are happening here in Leelanau County. And like you, if they were, we would want it addressed immediately. But I think we have got a community active sheriff in a department. And I'm proud to say that we don't have those problems in our county today. So, and thank you, this board, for providing that additional training dollars so that our department here can be better trained.
Any other comment? Commissioner Sutis Little.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give a little update on the grant and on the survey. Returns are continuing to come in daily on the business survey and gathering information on internet sufficiency for our home-based businesses. We're over 15% return rate now, which is excellent, and we hope to receive more. I picked up 9 more today, and I see that there were another 2 or 3 that logged in on our online option for replying. Returns are from all the townships, which is great, and a real mix of business types. The comments have been excellent. We even have returns from farms. So I think one thing that's popped up already is, in comparing it with the survey that LPEF did in 2016, is price continues to be a real issue. And that's one thing that folks are continuing to complain about. But the need, as you say, the comments are excellent in terms of documenting the need. The grant itself is moving along very nicely. We're currently exploring some partnership opportunities that just developed this week that would involve fiber, in addition to towers for the fixed wireless service expansion. So it's going to be interesting to get those out over the next 2 days and see what possibilities might really be there that could be concretely woven into the grant. I look forward to sharing the graphs from the survey with you on Monday. It's interesting data, and I think you'll find it somewhat intriguing. Also, just to note that I did follow up with emails and invites to Tom Stevenson, Chris Schaefer, Ray Lapine, and Jim Selby, indicating that you would appreciate their input and their expertise on Monday. So I'm hopeful all will be able to attend by Zoom. That's it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Rushing.
I have a question for Commissioner Sotis Little. You said under the grant, you said something about exploring partnerships involving fiber. So has that grant opened up in a different fashion, or?
No, that's a good question. What the grant had in it were focuses in certain areas, for instance, telecommunication. And one of the options we're exploring is with our libraries in terms of the capabilities that they are desiring to put in place for businesses, webinars, other kinds of tools. And another involves a new grant potentially, and I don't really know enough about this yet to talk about it, but it looks like there may be fiber that's coming from another grant that's laid that we might be able to couple with and be able to extend that to serve some of the business communities that would be allied to where that particular grant, if they get it, would be laying fiber. So I don't know. We have to jump through some hoops first, and we have to get some clearances first for other groups, but that's what I meant by partnership opportunities. There are other folks looking at other grants that are interested in, can we leverage what they're doing and can they leverage what we're doing? All in all, what it would do would be to expand how many points we would be putting in the process. So it would be a plus for both parties. And it would increase the overall amount, which is another plus, because one thing we do know about the EDA is they don't give us many points towards projects that don't ask for enough money in their consideration in terms of the expenditure on their part of review and engineering, et cetera. So this is still all infrastructure related from our part, but it's just looking at it from that standpoint. So hopefully on Monday, I can give some more concrete information, but it's too good an opportunity to not at least explore.
One last question for you, Commissioner. Are those who are interested in this grant for laying fiber, would those people be invited to our session on towers?
Actually, on the one, probably not, but the others will already be there. Ray Lapine does fiber, the Grand Traverse brand does fiber. So in terms of if we decided to do that, Tim Malone does fiber. But if we decided to go on that direction, we have internet service providers who could take on that portion of the grant in terms of implementation if the money were there to do it. So it's a matter of looking to see if there is a connection between the libraries and the other entities of what they want to do, if that is a positive connection with what our EDA grant supports. And if so, then we would ask for the fiber dollars to do that particular aspect. And they would be asking for the dollars through their grants to handle the non-infrastructure related items that would be required, whether they're cameras or who knows what all that they're looking at needing to be able to provide the service they want to provide. So it's right now it's just a matter of seeing, will it fit? But do we have people that could provide it? Yes, we do. That we're already working with in this county. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Rushton?
Sort of. We'll have more discussion on it at the meeting.
When I get more details, it'll be easier to answer.
Would be nice to know who the players are, I guess.
Commissioner Lochner.
Couple quick questions, well, one quick comment, there may also be, I was approached about a partnership with the towers, and it sounds a little different than what Patricia was talking about, so there could be even some more opportunity out there. So all the IP providers that are providing internet in the county have all been invited to this?
Yes.
And will be there Monday, okay.
Well, I'm not sure they'll be participating, Monday, but they've been invited.
Okay. All right. Then, I have one more question on that. Well, I'll think of it Monday. Well, we can go over that Monday. If I don't think of it again tonight.
Did you say David Stoker will be?
I'm attempting to get them to.
Oh, okay.
Just about the contract and the legal questions, because I know there may be some questions there, yes.
Can we get a list, Chuck, for those who have been invited to this?
I'll have
meeting?
Matt send it out.
Okay, great.
Matt's been working on that. Also, you'll get the contracts, draft contracts too.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, I remembered my question. Yeah? Can we get any of that survey information before Monday? Because it's going to be very difficult to have a work session unless we take a break and read some of that during the work session. So if you're going to provide this information, it would be good to have it as early as possible.
I'm sorry, are you directing that to me?
Are you directing it to
Yes.
Commissioner Little?
Yes,
So you're asking that the survey that we're putting together for the grant, which we're not going to have the grant to you on Monday, but you would like to see that in advance? Just to
I
put,
had
so that you
understood
could
we were
be,
going to talk about the survey results Monday.
I just thought I'd share them with you. I wasn't looking to go into them. I thought we would do that when we have the grant. I just wanted you to have advance information. But if you'd like them before to kind of arm yourself with information that might be relevant to Monday's meeting, I'd be happy to provide it.
That's what I'm asking.
You're most welcome.
Any other commissioner comments? All right, so then we'd move on to approval of financials. We have 3 amendments and 1 transfer.
So,
Commissioner Lochner.
well, I would move to approve amendment number 20-008, 20-007, and amendment number 20-006. Or 6, 7, and 8.
Support.
Support.
Commissioner Ansel.
Okay, I need some help here.
7 and 8, you said?
Yes.
All 3 of these primarily look like they're dealing with hospitalization.
That is correct statement.
Are the same expenses floating through all 3 of these? Or are these cumulative, meaning we're looking at 346,000 increase on one, 108 on another, and another 456 on the third?
So
Can you
that,
explain how these relate to each other?
yep, I certainly can. So in budget amendment 20-006 and 20-007, these are your cost allocations to fund your insurance fund, our health insurance fund. So we pay our Blue Cross bill from one fund. That is the amendment 20-008. So it's not a cumulative of all 3. It's 6 and 7 equal 8. So I'm pulling money from your expense line item of health insurance in the general fund in the first, in 06. 07 is going to be all your separate proprietary or business-like funds, or such as cost allocation, which is buildings and grounds and IT. And then those amounts together equal what I'm increasing to the health insurance.
Okay, thank you for that. Now,
Why?
explain to me why we're changing the total, the total number in 2008 Explain to me why we're doubling more than doubling our budget number
For the health insurance
for the
portion.
health insurance.
Okay. I'm not sure, Patricia and Peachy, I did send you a last minute email. If you got a chance to look at it, it would have been probably just before the meeting started.
They both nodded yes.
Okay, so what I sent to you is, and what you have in front of you is I gave you December 31st of 2019. That revenue and expense report is something that I came to you actually twice in 2019 to amend. First was August, lastly was in December. If you take a look at your insurance line item, 718.100 of 2019, you will see that the current actual to date insurance costs for 2019 were $1,040,375.16. That insurance line item 718.100 is what I consider to be in the fund called the float. It is my only parameter that is not set by the insurance company. So if I was to look at the admin fee varies, the stop loss payment is static, stays the same. Stop loss premium fee stays. The federal excise tax, that's up to the government. The agent fee stays the same. Claims on Michigan taxes does change. So when I'm giving you this budget and we're approving this in 2018 for the 2019 year, I'm actually using the previous year's stop loss premiums. Not until Lou comes to you and you sign your agreement and you renew, do our charges actually increase. So I try and fix those parameters as best as possible, leaving the rest of the money that we've budgeted since 2007 in that 718-100. Okay? So when it comes time for me to do a budget amendment, will I need to amend the 677 before year end once again? Most likely. And I'll have to do that because after February 1st, our stop loss increased because it was our renewal. So I'm putting the funds in there, and one of the reasons I'm doing this now, I have never done this now, is when I amend this budget and I roll to give you your budget books, this figure will be firm for 2021. And that is our goal. That is my goal. It was discussed yesterday with Lou that through Blue Cross Blue Shield, we are the oldest, is that correct, self-insured plan from 2007. You cannot buy this insurance online or anywhere in the United States. So with that, every time we beat the record, we are charged more. We have a $20,000 stop loss. Lou was talking to us possibilities of Blue Cross going to a $35,000 stop loss. Basically, it's like that Michigan pool of insurance. The more you pay in your stop loss, and if you don't play out in claims, you hope to get that money back. In this case, that doesn't happen to us. So if they raise our stop loss, like he's possibly talking, then they're supposed to release our premium, our monthly cost. He stated that one county looked at it was like a net $38,000 savings. To us, that would be great. That would work out. But if you have more claims, that if someone has a heart attack and the hospital bill is $100,000, instead of paying 20, you're now paying 35. So I'm kind of preparing us for the future. I've held off as long as I could. I talked every year budget-wise with you guys about the health insurance. We have stayed status quo with 2007. I have always just took little pieces and put it in there to get it through till the end of the year and made sure that we were not in a deficit. So each year I've been doing that. We're about 50,000, 55 that I have in that fund balance. And to me, even that makes me a little nervous, just because it's end of year. So what I'm prepping you for is our costs that we've budgeted since 2007 have stayed flat. I use $5,000 for a single, $11,000 for a two-person, and a $13,000 for a family, $13,500. I have increased your totals today to what the governor would consider the hard cap. We kind of fall out of that formula because we're self-insured. The hard cap for a single, we put in $5,000. This is $6,800. We put in 11. Theirs is 14,200. We put in 13. It's 18,500.
None of those are doubled. Why is ours
So
doubled?
what you're seeing in the event of what you're saying the insurance is double, this number that you're seeing, this 456 that I'm adding to, most likely by the end of this year will be over $1 million, just like 2019. Okay? So what it is historically, we have always gone low, probably too low. and we've kept it the same. It's worked. I've divvied it a little bit. Now we're looking at the future with Lou. This is your reality. You may have a year where if I get to the end, if I get into October and I don't see that I'm going to need it, I don't have to take it all. But right now, this is the budget. And we take this payment quarterly. So I fund this January to March, and then April to June, and so we take it this increments in quarterly. What this is allowing me to do by doing this budget amendment is take it if I need it. So right now, if you want to look at your June 30th, 2020, the budgetary expense in line item, or budgetary expense that I just ran, this is only through May. At the very bottom where it says beginning and adjusted balance, you started the year with 54. You had your year-to-date revenues, your year-to-date expenses, you're at a negative 129. I can tell you that this time last year, we were a negative 192. So am I seeing that it's about 70,000? Yes, but I also know we're on the same trend that I was to use $1 million to get me to December.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. To repeat back to you what I heard.
Yes.
Is the number that we put in as a budget number was never a good budget number.
I would say it was less than, it was the least amount you could put into fund. Always in hopes I'd never have to amend it.
But we always did amend it come December.
Yes.
We always did that in December.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to do an adjustment mid-year so that the end of year one may not be as big as what we have done in the past.
Correct. And if this was to be approved tonight, this gets solid and put in. When I roll your budget books out, they are final as of June 30th. So this amendment, when you get your budget book, it is going to be the realization of everybody's health insurance on those staffing levels in their budgets. And this is a time, and I know that you're talking about in your meetings, I don't know the future. I certainly do hope that our property taxes come in high. I hope the state and the federal stay the same, and we are A-okay. But if we're not, I know you need to know that what's this costing you. In the reality, it's always been the same, but I want you to see it. Does that make sense?
So we're not necessarily, we're more than doubling the number, but that's not reflective of a doubling in our actual expenses.
That is correct. That is correct. Yep. It is timing. And this is, typically I would probably hold off till August. John and I've done this with Ben before, and we'll float this if we need to. Because the next payment goes in July 1st. So that next those funds come in. But when we were talking about earlier today, earlier before we started, is my stop loss. So what we're having is lots of little nibbles at our insurance. And that's a great thing, but it means that there's no major where Blue Cross says, okay, you paid up to 20, now we pay the rest. So I'll take the nibbles. It means everybody's staying healthy, and due to COVID, that means it's a great thing. But I also thought we really should start to reflect this in our budget on what we feel is the true cost. And I can tell you sticker shock would be if you had an employee retire or leave and needed to take what is considered our true cost, which this plan doesn't exist. If you wanted to purchase our insurance, again, which doesn't exist, a family rate here is $24,000. I'm charging you 18. Before that, I was charging you 13. So to me, the 18 is a happy medium. If it was up to Lou, he would make us charge the illustrated rates. I do feel then we would have too much money in that fund. So I'm trying to do a happy medium. We're not at 2007, Governor Hardcap, we're not at illustrated. Okay.
If you were to exceed that amount, then employees would have to pay that difference?
That would be certainly something that we would want to discuss and open up with union negotiations. It's certainly in the realm of health insurance, the way that Lou explained it to us. Our illustrated rate is actually what we would be budgeting. But to me, that rate, that number for us would be up over $2.5 million. Because I do have a lot of family rate here. So at $24,000 for every person out of, let's say if 99 of our employees are on, 75 are family. That's a big chunk of money that I don't need sitting in that fund if I don't need it. If it was up to him in the private sector, that is what you'd budget. Yep, you'd budget for that.
But, okay, but you talk about the hard cap.
Yep.
I thought if we hit the hard cap,
Mm-hmm.
anytime it goes over that,
We're in essence out of formula is what Lou told us yesterday. If we were to be, I would, not audited, but if it's more of, we have the right to go up to our illustrated rate, our full exposure. Yes,
For a budgeting purpose.
for a budgeting purpose.
right,
Yes.
So if someone leaves and goes on COBRA and they're a family and they want to stay on our insurance, they're gonna pay that $24,000 a year. For budgeting now, we're moving that family rate up to $18,000.
From 13.
But it is a total of all those maximum rates combined.
Is what he told us yesterday.
Which I know is
How we
accurate.
have to look to that hard cap.
so then if employees take the buyout,
Mm-hmm.
then do they now get 9,000?
No.
If it's a family?
The buyout is now agreed upon in your non-union policy as well as your union contracts. So that's the same rate that's held true. Mm-hmm.
But that does help the county, that buyout.
Yeah.
Big time.
I don't know how many we're at now, 20, 25?
I think we're probably a little less than that, maybe 20
It just
20
depends
people.
what happens on the other side of their life or their health
Right.
insurance.
Right.
To where is that balance? It's a good buyout, but it served its purpose.
Okay, we have a motion on the table for these transfers, I'm sorry, amendments. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Wesson.
Jen, don't go anywhere.
Don't.
I was gonna say, no one could explain this better than Jen and actually make it almost logical.
Commissioner Walker.
I would recommend approval of fund transfers 20-004.
Support.
Move on.
Any questions on this one?
Explain this a bit.
Okay, so this is, John will probably go a little bit more into detail with you when you do get into your budget sessions. This is, we're getting close to the end of our revenue sharing. So this is the years ago, Michelle always tries and does explain well on the fact that our revenue sharing was paid to us, we hold it, and we're able to collect it. The state gives us a report, generally dictated, of course, after October, their state fiscal year, and they let us know how much is to be taken from that fund, and we are able to use to supplement our general fund in lieu of state money that would be sent to us. So our fund for the revenue sharing is at $982,000. And so we're taking, the state allocates, we're taking $470,949. And so before October of last year, the number was actually 462. So they gave us a little bit extra and we're at 470,949, which will leave us basically with 1 year left. And so that will be a great discussion with John come August on how this is going to be. But that's if we have one final year and then what happens.
And I believe we're one of only 2 counties that are still doing.
Left, yes, on the schedule, yeah, there's a schedule, everybody else has been paid out to 0.
Really?
Yes.
Yep.
I think, is it Emmett or Antrim?
I don't know, it is, I know, it goes alphabetically, so I know it's somebody above us.
Yes.
I don't have that.
Yeah,
It's
but
John's.
only 2 left out of 83 in the state.
So this is not free money, money that we collected a long time ago and then move in. And it's budgeted, I've always done it with John in June before our tax collection in July.
That raises the question, how did the other people get all their money and they're still holding some of ours?
I believe it was based on it's a
It was-
schedule,
as
yeah,
I
it's a calc.
understand, It was a very complicated formula as a result of a lawsuit, county suing, that what the state did was illegal, so there was a compromise with a very complicated formula.
So they gave us the funds and we created, and some of this could also be interest because we got to keep the interest once they deposited the money for us, wherever we invested it, we got to keep the interest. So it may be, per the schedule, it may only be, 400 and something next year, but due to interest, there's money in that fund that they're not aware of.
Commissioner Walker.
I am trying to remember the caveat, and I'm hoping that Michelle can read.
I can't.
It's a long time ago.
I thought it was like 20 or 25 years ago.
It was a long
It
time.
had to do with, well, it had to do with basically we were a wealthy county. if
I
I
just remember
remember
thinking,
right.
oh, we won't get to the end of that for a long time.
Yeah, it's gonna be, yeah, we'll never see it.
The state was going through some severe
Yeah.
financial difficulties in the 90s. It was in the 90s, yes.
Yep, so it looks like you got 1 year after this one.
So we were penalized because we were prudent.
I wouldn't say penalized, I would say they gave you a great lump sum you got to collect a lot of good interest on.
It did end up, yeah, we weren't real happy about it at the time, but maybe we didn't realize we were going to get the interest out.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
We paid our taxes twice in 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's where the money came from. Everybody had to pay double their taxes.
Implemented over a 3-year gradual scale. Mhm.
Any other questions or statements? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So, post office, claims and accounts.
I would move to approve claims and accounts, $299,057.73.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Post audit.
Would move to approve post audit claims and accounts at $1,155,132.64.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned.